Hello, welcome in. If you're here listening to this podcast, that means you're destined for something great, and we both know it to be true. So without further ado, welcome to the Dark Matter Podcast. Hey y'all, welcome back to the podcast. Dev here. This just came up, and as soon as it came into my mind, I looked around me, and it's just one of those things where we know that our beliefs shape our reality. We also know that our brain will work to prove us right. And so the interesting thing with this is as soon as I got the idea, I started seeing the social proof all around me, right? And some of my friends, some of the people I see online, and some of the content that I see. So I wanted to share this, and it really is understanding our internal triggers. And it's just so powerful. And we also understand that personal development as a whole is an ongoing process. There's never a point, there's never a person in humanity that has ever got to a point where they say, I am the pinnacle of humanity, of human beings, perfect human, because again, perfect is almost subjective, right? Perfect for someone may not be perfect for another. Some people care more about physical strength and other people care more about intellectual intelligence, right? So I think the reality of the situation is as we all continue to traverse this place called Earth, I think the idea with it is just continuing that trend on knowing the type of person that we want to be. And I think in doing that, we realize that triggers are a big piece to who we are. And I think every single human being on this planet understands this. And I think more importantly, you people listening to this podcast will understand that because you're a conscious creator. You understand your internal narratives. You're self-aware, you're very strong, you're courageous. And I think if I am continuing this trend of getting it right, I think there has been a lot of shifts with a lot of different things over the last little while. And our triggers are one of those things that are up next in terms of how do we learn how to address these things. And I wanted to share a couple tips on this because some of my closest friends that I've known growing up, some of my family members, some of the people that I see online, a lot of people are struggling with this right now. And I was speaking to one of my family members the other day, and they were just sharing a story about something that happened. And the reality of the situation is it wasn't actually that serious, but because there was some traumas in the past that weren't addressed properly, because there was some lingering feelings towards the situation, it was blown out of proportion, and it just took on a different life of its own because it was a trigger. And a trigger gone unnoticed will continue to have, very damaging effects, and it can come off in a variety of different ways, right? If we are triggered by something, some people go immediately into rage and they get frustrated and they lash out. Some people get triggers and they shut down and they see something and they just melt and they don't know how to communicate anymore, right? Triggers are the things that evoke an immense amount of emotions within us that sometimes make it uncontrollable or unbearable. And again, even if the severity of the situation isn't that severe, to us it is. And to us, left unchecked, will again have those damaging effects. So how do we know if something's triggering? I urge you listening to this, over the last 30 days, have you seen something, heard something? Has someone told you something? Have you read something where it just made your blood boil? And for no particular reason. It wasn't directed at you. It wasn't saying anything that, should be found offensive to you. Or maybe it was. And it absolutely sent you on a bit of a spiral. And You just maybe clenched your fist, you started sweating, and maybe you got a little red, maybe you got frustrated. Was there anything to that capacity over the last 30 days in your life? And be honest, if there wasn't really anything, then hell yeah. That's the idea, and keep on that trend. But just remember that this information today will still be useful for you because it may come up at some point in time, especially when we least expect it. And so if you have experienced something over the last 30 days, really analyze it. What was it? If it was a friend telling you the scenario that you went through, how would you look at that situation? And would you think that whatever ensued was justified? Or was it a little bit of an overreaction? And I think it's unfair to say that overreaction is the appropriate term because, again, no one really understands how it means or how it feels to somebody. But what we can all agree on is the fact that when something happens, we have a variety of ways that we can actually choose to interpret the information, and more importantly, what we do to act on the information. It comes to the things that causes us to really act uncontrollably. We have to really look internally. We have to look deeper. There usually is a reason that we feel the way that we do that causes the situation to mean as much as it does. And this is just a reality check I think that we all need, because when you see someone that you care about, friends, family, when you see them wrestling with something that almost controls them, how do you talk to them? How do you get through to them? And I think it is by understanding that triggers in itself is something that people stop using their logical mind and they think with their emotions. And so maybe you trigger someone, right? Maybe you're in a fight with someone and you know that what you're about to say is going to really set them off, and you say it anyways and you watch them spiral out of control. That is a trigger, of course. And we're on the giving end. But when you're on the receiving end, it's extremely difficult, especially when you know someone is trying to do that to you. And the best thing that we can do as individuals, as professionals, as entrepreneurs, as human beings, is to respect ourselves enough to really dig deep and understand our triggers. Because if you allow your own emotions to get the better of you through triggers or through any other means of being manipulated, then we can never truly be whole. We can never truly be at peace, because someone will always have that over us. It's in dealing with our own internal triggers that we realize until we've dealt with the things, people or someone can always have control over us. And it's not, especially if you've experienced this like I have, being in a situation where someone has control over you that isn't voluntary, it is one of the most uncomfortable situations that you could be part of, because you lose a little bit of faith, you lose a little bit of trust, and it's a scary place to be when you realize that someone else has power over you. And there were so many scenarios in my life growing up where this was always a thing. And getting to a point now where you think you have created a fantastic life for yourself, but you still can get triggered by things. And that's the reality of the situation. And so no matter what it is, this short and sweet episode is just to remind ourselves that it is normal to get triggered. It is normal to experience things that really gets us frustrated, and and to feel the way that we feel. But the more important thing is knowing how to process those feelings and knowing how to turn that into a positive for us and not allowing it to take on a life of its own and potentially do some damage because our emotions are left unchecked, meaning they take on and move situations forward, and it might not be what your logical mind wants you to do. So a little bit of a left field with this episode, but for some reason I was just called to share this. And if you're experiencing this, if you can resonate with it, if you see it within yourself or you see it around people with you, just remember that triggers, just like situations, that's why it's always important to keep your mind in check, to be happy, to be healthy, to take care of yourself. Because I've seen people who literally ruin their entire life because they were triggered, whether it was an assault. I've seen people literally lose their entire livelihood as they know it because they couldn't control the severity of the trigger they experienced. Whether it's right or wrong, no one can say that's a right or wrong or a reasonable way to express yourself, because again, no one really understands what you're going through and how your mind processes things. But we can all agree upon is that if we have a chance to just breathe, if we have a chance to just refocus, if we have a moment to just sit by ourselves, we can get through the triggers. So if the next time you hear something you don't want to hear, someone tells you something, they insult you, or they do something that just gets you excited, don't act immediately. Take a moment. Breathe. If you have to step away, because I'm telling you, it is worth it. Your future self will thank you, because the situations that we continue to get into will always get more demanding no matter where it is that you go. And for a lot of you listening, I know that maybe 5 or so-ish years ago, you probably would have dreamt to be in the situation you're in now. You dreamt of dealing with the challenges you deal with now compared to the ones that you dealt with 5 years ago. You can only imagine what's going to happen in the next 5 years from now. So keep your mind in check, stay healthy, don't pressure yourself to feel like you need to do something you don't want to do. Just breathe, remain in check, do not allow your emotions to take control, and honestly, it'll be the best thing that you can do for yourself, is to just maintain control over your emotions and your triggers. I hope you took the bigger message, which is the fact that there's something that we can learn from it, and I appreciate you, as always. So, hope you found this helpful. If you did, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you share it with some of your friends and fam, and thank you so much for listening to the podcast. As always, y'all, I'll catch you on the next one. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, comment, share, subscribe to it all. You know I appreciate it. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one.